It's easy to look at Children of Zodiarcs and compare it to any number of strategy RPGs. Its painterly aesthetic and grid-based combat make it clear that Cardboard Utopia were inspired by titles directed by Yasumi Matsuno, such as Tactics Ogre and Final Fantasy Tactics, and it's even been published under the banner of the Square Enix Collective. There's plenty of familiar themes as well, with an emphasis on strife between social classes and a lost technological history that's helped establish a hegemony and becomes the key to fighting against it. But Children of Zodiarcs has its own vision for the genre. While other tactics RPGs often sprawl into political intrigue involving several kingdoms, Zodiarcs is fairly intimate. It's contained to a small number of characters and environments, gesturing to a larger world but keeping its focus on the small part that its characters inhabit. Zodiarcs' largest strides, then, are in the combat system, which combine elements of tabletop games with its tactical RPG core. Each character is equipped with a unique set of cards and dice, which determine their abilities and their role in combat. As experience is gained, new cards will become available and older cards will gain new effects. These effects will often open up new combinations with other cards and require certain dice rolls to activate. This is where Zodiarcs' unique dice system comes into play. Tabletop games and RPGs can often put you at the mercy of dice or a random number generator, leaving me frustrated when a bad roll puts me at a disadvantage in a critical situation. Zodiarcs not only surfaces these dice rolls, but gave me multiple ways to exert my influence on them. 2 dice from any given outcome can be re-rolled, and can even be thrown in ways that knock over other dice into a more favorable facing. The dice rolled in each situation are also determined by a base set from a character-specific pool, the card played, and any status effects. This kept even negative status effects interesting, since they don't restrict your choices, but complicate them, by forcing you to choose between using your rerolls to mitigate negative outcomes, or trying to nullify them by rolling higher with other dice. Each character's base set of dice can also be changed out, or even crafted to increase the probability of activating certain effects. It turns dice and deck building into analogs for character states and attributes. Dice become a character's aptitudes, and decks what moves are available and how often they'll appear. A character's hand becomes their stamina. Exhaust it and they'll effectively be worn, unable to act without rest or retaliate when attacked. It's a well-considered system, and it allowed me the satisfaction of tweaking and improving characters without having to micromanage equipment or items. It can be less flexible than other systems, with more established roles for each character, but it still allowed me plenty of satisfying options, especially as I unlocked new abilities. For instance, I had one character repeatedly attack enemies to the point of exhaustion, before replenishing her hand with a final blow, or disappearing into shadows to protect herself and ready a sneak attack. Meanwhile, another became centered on constantly drawing new cards, readying AoE spells and allowing moves that didn't fit the situation to be rapidly discarded. Pulling off these maneuvers and iterating on my approach continued to keep me engaged throughout, and I rarely felt that there was a lack of interesting decisions to make. Even small decisions, like the way I chose to throw the dice, offered a tangible sense of consequence and control over the outcome of the battle. The initial launch did contain some frustrating difficulty spikes, with certain chapters becoming roadblocks that required me to grind for better stats and new abilities to feel that I even had a chance. It didn't help that I often felt that I was losing not because I was outplayed, but because there were too many enemies. Thankfully, a new patch introduced an optional dynamic difficulty, which adjusts enemies' levels to the characters, removing the need to grind. It also formalized the ability to save during battle, keeping me from having to restart long encounters. It's a significant quality of life improvement, and I felt it was worth bringing up since it made my progress through the final stretch of the game so much smoother. Even with those issues resolved, a larger problem with the combat still exists. Battles continue to escalate throughout the campaign, bringing larger numbers of enemies and lengthier battles. This would be fine if the events felt they justified it, but this uptick happens regardless of the importance of the events. Minor skirmishes drag to the length of major plot points, and I found myself spending more time fighting a lesser faction than any of the major players of the story. Despite spending over 20 hours with it, the story felt slight. Characters didn't get enough screen time, and the final chapter was rushed to an abrupt conclusion. Children of Zodiarcs hinted at a deeper history, but it left its world unexplored. And if I'm disappointed, it's only because Cardboard Utopia created something that otherwise was so rich and compelling. I wanted to see more of the characters, to see their lives play out, and to learn more about the city they inhabited. Instead, Children of Zodiarcs hinges its appeal on its hybrid approach to tactics and tabletop. And well, it works! Even if I found myself wanting more from its story, it stayed compelling throughout. I found myself coming back to test new combinations, and finding myself excited when I found a new way to finesse the system. It felt worthwhile to return to, entirely on the strength and novelty of its combat and deck building. So, even if this is the end of Children of Zodiarcs, I hope that this is only the beginning for Cardboard Utopia.